My motivation for designing a class that's a little bit interactive, hands-on, and interdisciplinary in some sense is basically I looked at what had worked for me in my own education, and I tried to put together some elements from that to train students, the next generation, so to speak, on how to incorporate those things all together in doing experiments. So that basically led to the development of this experimental methods in engineering mechanics class, where we have sort of a broad modular approach to doing one single experiment over a several-week period, which allows the students to get really in-depth in the problem and be confronted with challenges that they have to work through. In the class, the students are able to learn by actually conducting the experiments. And effectively, they're going to be confronted with challenges that they might not know how to actually address a priori. And they're going to have to work through those. So we have the modular structure in place, which allows the students enough time to work through problems on their own. As part of our teaching approach, what we end up doing is we try to use sort of like a question and answer type of approach, or a Socratic approach to how they end up going about addressing the problems. So when a student comes to me with a question, oh, well, I didn't quite understand how to make this particular aspect of the experiment work, instead of giving them a direct answer, I'll try to rephrase what their question is in such a way that they're guided toward the answer. And as soon as I feel like the student is at a point where they have a next step, then I back off again and allow the students to continue making progress and learning through that experience. So in the course of doing the experiments, the students are certainly going to make some mistakes here and there. And I think that's a central component to the learning process in this type of interdisciplinary class, because essentially the students then figure out, well, actually I had thought things were going to work in this way, and then they didn't. So what I try to do is I try to help the students recover to a successful point and ultimately reach a successful outcome of the experiment in light of the mistake that they made, rather than trying to punish them for having made such a mistake. If I had a chance to repeat putting this type of class together, I think the one thing that I would really do, or focus on doing slightly differently, would be to ensure that I build into my schedule a time to have a reflection period after each class in order to see what worked well and what didn't. Because just as the students are going to make mistakes in the course of doing these protracted experiments, there are going to be things along the way that work well to help facilitate them achieving a successful result with the experiment and deepen their understanding of a mechanical principle. And there are things that are not going to work quite as well in leading them toward that. So I think having the time to take a little bit of a second view of how a class went and writing down what was working and what wasn't, that would be something that I would focus on doing each class.